My fiancée dumped me to chase her sister's glamorous life abroad. Now she's broke, abandoned, and begging me to take her back. I'm in kind of a weird spot right now, and honestly, I'm not sure I handled it the right way. My fiancée, let's call her Jessica, recently ended our engagement and made the sudden decision to move overseas. This all started after her older sister Susan, who's some kind of social media influencer, began spending a lot more time with her and filling her head with these big ideas about the kind of life she should be living. Jessica and I had been together for 4 years, engaged for the last one. I genuinely thought things between us were solid. We were saving for a house, making plans for the future, all the typical couple stuff. Sure, we had disagreements now and then like any pair, but nothing serious. I've got a stable job that pays fairly well, and I'm in line for promotion down the road. Jessica worked for a small local company. We were doing fine financially and, from my perspective, seemed content. Susan, on the other hand, is a few years older and lives a totally different lifestyle. She's constantly traveling, sharing flashy photos from exotic places, and always appears to be surrounded by rich and glamorous people. She calls herself a lifestyle guru or something along those lines. To be honest, I always thought she was kind of over the top, really into appearances and constantly worried about how others see her. But since she was Jessica's sister, I kept things civil and tried to get along. She never seemed to like me, though. She'd drop little comments here and there about how my job was too dull or how our hometown was too plain for someone like Jessica. About 6 months ago, Susan came back to stay with their parents for a while, which meant she was around a lot more than usual. That's when things really started to shift. She began taking Jessica out to upscale restaurants, buying her fancy clothes Jessica definitely couldn't afford on her own, and constantly hyping up her supposedly fabulous lifestyle. She'd tell stories about yacht parties, luxury trips to Dubai, and all the successful, wealthy people she knew. She started telling Jessica that she was young, attractive, and had way too much potential to be tied down so early in life. At first, Jessica would just laugh or tell Susan that she was happy with our life. She'd even defend me and what we were building together. But over time, I noticed her attitude started to change. Suddenly, she started criticizing our life. My job became boring, our apartment felt tiny, and our friends were labeled as dull. She started comparing everything we did to what Susan bragged about. She became glued to Susan's social media, constantly scrolling through photos of influencers and celebrities, sighing about how she wished she could live like that. Not long after that, we started arguing more. Jessica would bring up things like, Susan says you're not ambitious enough, or mention how camping wasn't her idea of a vacation anymore, she'd rather be sunbathing in the Maldives. Eventually, she began to seriously question if she was settling. I tried to talk her down and remind her of what we had, all the plans we made together, and the love that held us together. I also pointed out that Susan's lifestyle looked extremely shallow to me, probably built more on connections and appearances than actual success or happiness. I told her that a real relationship is about creating a life together, not chasing flashy distractions or whatever trend is hot online. I didn't hold back. I told her plainly that I loved her, and I believed in the life we were working toward. I wasn't going to apologize for having stable goals or for wanting long-term happiness over Instagram likes. I also told her, bluntly, that I thought Susan was a bad influence, more interested in boosting her own image than genuinely helping Jessica live a fulfilling life. That didn't sit well. It just made our arguments even worse. Jessica accused me of being jealous of Susan, saying I was trying to control her and hold her back. And of course, Susan played right into it. Whenever Jessica and I fought, she'd whisk her away to escape the negativity. I'm sure during those little getaways, she just reinforced the idea that I was the problem. Jessica started coming home less often, and when she was around, she was emotionally checked out, always on her phone, browsing travel deals or designer clothes Susan had suggested. Then, 2 weeks ago, she walked in and told me she was done. She said Susan had opened her eyes to the world she was missing out on, and that she needed to go experience it for herself. She told me she was calling off the engagement and moving to Europe, some party-heavy city known for its nightlife and wealthy tourists. Apparently, Susan had a few connections over there to help her settle in. Jessica told me I was a good guy, just not the right guy for where she saw her life going. She said she wanted someone who could match her energy and help her chase a more exciting, luxurious lifestyle. Of course, I was devastated and angry too, but I didn't beg. I didn't promise to suddenly become someone I'm not, or drop my whole life to follow some fantasy cooked up by her sister. I told her I thought she was making a huge mistake, that she was chasing a dream that looked good on the outside but was probably hollow inside. I said she was throwing away something real for a filtered illusion and that Susan was using her for her own gain. That set her off. She yelled that I didn't understand her sister at all and that Susan was the only one who truly believed in her potential. The next day, she started packing. I didn't try to stop her. When her dad came by to help with the boxes, I even helped load her things into the car. I stayed calm. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just told her that while I disagreed with her decision, I respected it. I wished her luck, even though I didn't think she'd find what she was looking for. She looked a little surprised, like she expected me to fall apart or beg her to stay. Maybe she thought I'd try to win her back. But I didn't. Susan was there too, smirking and giving directions like she was the moving manager. She kept making snide remarks about all the junk Jessica had collected while living with me. I ignored her completely. Jessica officially moved out last week. The place feels empty now. Some of our shared friends are stunned. Others, the ones closer to Susan, think she made the right choice. My family's upset, but they're also relieved. They think I'm better off without someone who could be so easily led away. So now I'm left wondering, was I wrong for not fighting harder to keep her? Should I have done something dramatic, made some huge romantic gesture, promised to change, just to make her stay? Part of me thinks that if someone can be convinced to leave you that easily by a sister selling a dream, then maybe the love wasn't as strong as I thought. And trying to fight for her would have only delayed the inevitable, or worse, turned me into someone I'm not. But still, there's a piece of me that wonders if I let her go too quickly. If I just gave up on someone I really loved. Update 1: It's been 3 months since Jessica left. I've read every single comment and piece of advice on my original post, and I just want to say thank you. The overwhelming response was that I wasn't in the wrong, and that I handled the breakup with as much grace as I could, especially considering how determined Jessica was to follow Susan's path. Hearing your perspectives helped me feel more at peace with not chasing after her or begging her to stay. As for what's happened since, Jessica really did move abroad. I haven't gone looking for updates, but mutual friends mention her now and then, and I've caught glimpses of Susan's posts here and there. Right after she left, Jessica's new life looked like one long string of parties and fresh faces. Susan stuck by her side for the first few weeks, and their social media accounts lit up with pictures from trendy nightclubs, fancy events, and circles full of people who clearly had serious money. Susan captioned almost everything with those dreamy, influencer-style hashtags, stuff like "teaching my sister to live her best life" or "freedom looks good on you, Jessica." The whole thing felt staged, like it was tailor-made for Susan's brand. Jessica shared a few posts too, mostly selfies with Susan, smiling and wide-eyed. She looked thrilled. I guess it was all new and exciting at first. About a month after she left, I got the final utility bill for our old apartment. Since the account was still under both our names, it came to me. The amount caught my eye, it was unusually high. So I checked the details and found a bunch of international calls made from our landline during her last few days there. All of them were to the country she ended up moving to. Long calls, probably to get everything set up. She never said anything about it. Just left me with the tab. It wasn't a massive bill, maybe a couple $100, but it stung. She didn't even bother tying up her own loose ends before disappearing into her glamorous new life. I went ahead and paid it, then switched everything over to my name. Still, it left a bitter taste. Just another reminder of how thoughtless her exit had been. On top of that, I had to deal with random subscriptions still tied to her credit cards but billed to our address. Nothing huge, but again, just more evidence that her mind had been completely on her new chapter, not on cleaning up the mess she left behind. Then, about 6 weeks ago, a mutual acquaintance, someone more in Jessica's corner, messaged me. They asked if I'd heard from her. I said no. Their response was something along the lines of, "Oh, she's doing so well, tons of exciting new opportunities." It felt more like a fishing expedition or maybe a passive-aggressive way to make me feel bad. I just replied, "Good for her," and left it at that. Susan, of course, kept up her usual routine, posting about designer bags, private jets, and brunches with people who probably spend more on shoes than I make in a month. But after those early weeks, Jessica started showing up less and less in her posts. Lately, she's barely there at all. Maybe the occasional group shot in the background, but no more "look at my fabulous little sister" features. I don't know if that means anything, but I noticed. I haven't reached out to Jessica, not once. I don't feel the need. That initial pain I felt when she left has mostly turned into quiet disappointment. Maybe the version of Jessica I loved was the one that existed before Susan's full-court press of influence. Or maybe she was always prone to chasing flashy things, and I just refused to see it. I'm not sitting around waiting for her. I've been focusing on myself, rebuilding my life. I still believe I did the right thing by not begging her to stay or trying to shape myself into whatever fantasy Susan had in mind. If that's the life Jessica wanted, she's welcome to it. For those wondering, no, I haven't started dating. I'm not out there looking. Right now, I'm just putting my energy into myself and letting life unfold naturally if something or someone new comes along. And honestly, the quiet is nice. At first, it felt lonely, sure, but now I appreciate it. No more fights about ambition or skipping parties. I've been using my camping gear a lot, and it feels good. Update 2. Hey Reddit, thought I'd check back in. It's been around 8 months since I first shared my story and about 5 months since that last update. Quite a bit has happened, and I find myself wondering if what I did recently was justified or maybe too cold. Quick recap for the new folks: my ex-fiancée Jessica dumped me and took off overseas, seduced by the glitz and glam of her influencer sister Susan's lifestyle. I didn't beg her to stay. She left. I moved on. Since my last update, I've really leaned into taking care of myself. I got promoted at work finally, and I've been out hiking most weekends. I'm in the best shape I've been in for years. I've actually felt settled, clear-headed, and pretty optimistic about where my life's headed. Jessica never contacted me directly during that time. And Susan's feed, which I only ever see when friends show me, has been its usual mix of luxury overload. Jessica had basically vanished from it, just like I figured she would. Then, about a month ago, some news started trickling in through mutual friends. Susan got engaged. She didn't post about it right away, not on her main pages. It was more hush-hush at first, like she was telling people quietly. Then someone uploaded a photo from a private engagement party, and the word spread. Apparently, Susan had been secretly dating a wealthy older guy for a while, and now she was locked in with him. The part that stood out? Jessica wasn't in any of the pictures from the party. Not even a passing mention. It looked like Susan had completely cut her out of this new chapter. It didn't take long to figure out that Susan's rich fiancé didn't exactly come with a +1 spot for Jessica. Once the man with the money showed up, it was like Jessica had served her purpose and was quietly benched. Right around the time that engagement news became public, I got a DM from Jessica. Just a short "hey." I ignored it. A few days later, another one, "Can we talk?" Still didn't respond. Then came a longer message. She said things weren't going the way she'd hoped. That she was struggling. That she missed me. I didn't feel anything, not sadness, not anger. Nothing. Just blank. More messages followed, each one sounding more desperate than the last. She talked about Susan's engagement, how she felt abandoned, like her sister had used her as a prop and then ditched her the moment something better came along. She hinted at money problems, said the glamorous lifestyle fell apart quickly once Susan stopped helping. She even admitted she made a mistake. I still didn't respond. I talked about it with a close friend, who told me I didn't owe her a thing. And that's how I saw it too. Jessica made her choice, and she made it loud and clear. She went all in on her sister's fantasy and left everything we built behind. If that fantasy ended with her getting used and tossed aside, that's on her. Eventually, Susan made her big engagement announcement public. It was as obnoxious and overproduced as you'd expect: glossy photos, sparkly captions, her going on about her king and how they were building an empire together. No mention of Jessica, of course. Then, a couple days after, Susan posted some vague, preachy message about outgrowing people and letting go of those who no longer align with your higher self. It read like one of those fake deep inspirational posts influencers throw out when they're cutting someone off without saying it directly. I couldn't help but think, yeah, that was probably aimed straight at Jessica. And from the tone of Jessica's messages, it sounded like she knew it too. She'd been used up, left behind, and now she was reaching back toward the only stable thing she ever had. Me. But I'm not that guy anymore. After giving it a lot of thought, I made a firm decision. I went ahead and blocked both Jessica and Susan on every social media platform I was still connected to. I also blocked their numbers from my phone. The reason was simple: I needed to shut that door for good. Jessica's messages were starting to feel like emotional bait, and I didn't want to get pulled into any more drama. And as for Susan? Just seeing her online gave me secondhand embarrassment. I had no interest in even accidentally stumbling across her carefully curated nonsense. I'm moving forward with my life, and cutting them off completely felt like a necessary step to protect my peace and make sure I wasn't sucked back into their chaos. I don't hate Jessica. I don't wish her harm. But I also don't feel any sense of duty to help her deal with the mess she helped create. She made her choice, and I let her go. Now, I'm walking even further away from that chapter. Update 3. It's been about 4 months since I blocked them both. And honestly, life's only gotten better. The biggest change is that I started seeing someone. Her name's Carla, and she's absolutely incredible. She's a veterinarian, kind-hearted, grounded, and she loves hiking and being out in nature just like I do. We met at a hiking group event through a mutual friend. I wasn't expecting anything to come from it, but it just clicked. Our relationship has grown naturally, steady, healthy, and built on real respect. It's been a completely different experience compared to the emotional roller coaster with Jessica. Carla knows I went through a rough breakup. She doesn't know every detail, but enough to understand the weight of it. And she's never judged me for it. Then, a couple weeks ago, the past came knocking, literally. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I was home when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I looked through the peephole, I almost didn't believe it. Jessica. She looked different. Worn down. I thought about ignoring it, but decided to face it head on. I opened the door. She looked stunned that I answered, then her face started to crumple. Before I could get a word out, she launched into this tidal wave of emotion. She said she had come back to the country, and everything overseas had gone sideways. After Susan got engaged, she cut Jessica off completely. Changed her number. Even told mutual friends not to help her. Jessica said Susan had used her like a prop to spice up her social media for a bit, then threw her away when her rich fiancé entered the picture. She talked about how the money dried up, the fake friends disappeared, and the whole party lifestyle turned hollow and cold. Then she started crying, saying she'd made the biggest mistake of her life, that I had always been the only one who truly cared, and that she'd been stupid and immature for listening to Susan. And then came what I was dreading, she asked for another chance. She said she'd do anything to make it right. Said she still loved me. She swore we could rebuild what we had. I stayed calm the entire time. I let her finish. Then I told her, plainly, that I was sorry for what she went through, but I wasn't going to rekindle anything. I said I had moved on, fully. I reminded her that she had been the one to throw everything away, that she had made her choice, and that it wasn't my job to rescue her from the consequences. I also told her I was with someone new, someone who made me happy. That changed everything. Her tears vanished in a heartbeat. Her face turned cold and sharp. That familiar attitude, the entitlement Susan had helped plant in her, suddenly returned. She accused me of moving on too fast. Said I was heartless. Asked if our 4 years together meant nothing. She even said I owed her the chance to fix things. Then she had the nerve to insult Carla. Asked who she was, claimed she couldn't possibly understand me the way Jessica did. Called her a downgrade and accused me of dating out of spite. When I didn't flinch, she got louder, angrier. She shouted that I was being cruel, that I never truly loved her, otherwise I wouldn't discard her so easily. She completely missed the irony. I held firm. I told her my relationship with Carla was not her concern, and that I wouldn't let her speak about Carla like that. I reminded her again, her pain was a direct result of choices she made. I wasn't responsible for fixing that. When she tried to grab my arm, begging again, I stepped back. I told her firmly to leave my property or I'd call the police. That snapped her out of it. She started crying again, but this time it was different. It was rage mixed with desperation. She said I was cold, heartless, and walked off, broken and furious. I shut the door behind her and let out a long breath. It was ugly, but it confirmed I'd done the right thing when I blocked her. Later that night, I told Carla everything. She was so supportive, said I handled it perfectly. And honestly, that whole ordeal only made me appreciate Carla more. It reminded me of what a healthy, genuine relationship actually feels like. Final update. Hey Reddit, this'll be my last post about all this. It's been about 6 months since that confrontation at my apartment, and I think this chapter is finally over. First of all, thank you for following along. Writing all this out and hearing your thoughts helped me process everything more clearly. Unfortunately, Jessica didn't disappear quietly. A few days after I turned her away, Carla and I were out having dinner at one of our regular spots when Jessica showed up. I don't know if she followed me or had just been hanging around hoping to spot me. But there she was, marching up to our table, making a scene. She started yelling that I had abandoned her when she needed me. Called me names. Then she turned on Carla, which was completely out of line. She hurled insults at her, called her a homewrecker, which was absurd, considering Jessica and I had been done long before Carla and I even met, and even made nasty comments about her looks. Carla stayed composed through it all. She calmly suggested we leave. As I stood up, Jessica tried to block my way, grabbed my arm again, and kept shouting. The restaurant manager ended up stepping in and asking her to leave. She stormed out, but not before screaming that I'd regret it and that I owed her something. After that, the harassment ramped up. I started getting calls from random numbers. Most of the time it was either silence, or Jessica crying and begging, which quickly turned into yelling when I didn't engage. She even started contacting my friends and family, trying to spin some story where she was the victim and I was the villain who abandoned her for one mistake. Thankfully, they all knew better. They either ignored her or shut her down completely. But the worst was what she did to Carla. Jessica figured out where Carla worked, her clinic info was online. She showed up pretending her pet was sick, just to get in front of her. When she got Carla alone, she launched into a desperate plea, saying I was manipulative, still in love with her, and using Carla. Carla saw right through it. She told Jessica to leave and not come back. But still, it shook her. And it pissed me off. That was the last straw. I contacted a lawyer. We had a cease and desist letter sent to Jessica, formally documenting the harassment and warning her of legal consequences if it continued. I also started saving all messages and interactions, just in case. Through it all, Carla and I grew even closer. We helped each other through the stress, and she never once made me feel guilty for dragging her into this mess. Her strength, patience, and support made it crystal clear I had finally found someone who truly got me. We've started talking seriously about our future, looking at homes, even discussing marriage. It feels real this time. Balanced. Safe. Like something worth building. About 2 months ago, Jessica made one last desperate move. She went straight to my parents' house. Showed up without warning. Crying, disheveled, claiming to be homeless and starving because I refused to take her back. She begged them to help either by talking me into forgiving her or by giving her money. My parents are good people. They felt for her, but they also knew everything I'd gone through. They gave her enough for a meal and a cheap motel but told her flat out that my life was mine to live and that she had to stop harassing me and Carla. They told her to get help from her family or a professional. Jessica had a meltdown right there in their driveway. Screamed, cried, threw the money at the ground and said it wasn't enough, that they were just as heartless as me. My dad eventually had to threaten to call the police again before she left. That was the last time any of us saw her. Since then, I've heard through mutual acquaintances that Jessica went back to her parents' city, but she's not living with them. She's apparently working a low-paying job, mostly alone. And as for Susan? She's living it up, married now, surrounded by wealth, and has made zero effort to help her sister. The relationship between them, from what I hear, is completely severed. And honestly, that's none of my business anymore. I've got my own life now, a good one. One I built from scratch after everything fell apart. And I plan to keep it that way. Thanks again, Reddit. For real. I'm done looking backward.